Hey, this is James. I do marketing at Stedi, and today I'm going to show you how to build an insurance verification app in less than 30 minutes using Stedi and a coding agent. So you can follow along with this. It's completely free. It uses Stedi's free sandbox account, and you only need three things in order to get started. One is a terminal app. So if you use a Mac, you have a terminal built in. I'm using a terminal called Ghosty. But all a terminal essentially does is allow you to use text commands to change things on your computer. You can sort of think about it how like you click and close windows using your mouse and pointer. The terminal lets you do those same things just using text commands. The reason you need a terminal is this is how you're going to interact with your coding agent. So if you've heard of Claude Code or ChatGPT's Codex, those are coding agents. You can kind of think of them as LLMs that work inside the terminal and help you like build code with them essentially. You don't need to be super familiar with the terminal, text commands, or coding agents in order to use this tutorial, but you do need to have a terminal set up and a coding agent installed. I'm going to be using Claude Code today, but you can use whatever terminal and coding agent you would like. The other thing that you're going to need is a Stedi account. And this tutorial is based on a blog, which you can see here. And it walks through how to create an account, but it's pretty simple. It's free. It takes less than 2 minutes. All you do is go to stedi.com/create account. You can also just go to stedi.com and click sign up free. You click create a healthcare clearinghouse account, enter your name, work email, and password, and then follow along with the steps in there. It'll verify your email address. Once you complete that, you'll have access to a sandbox account, which I'm going to pause the recording, log into real quick, and then we'll pick up from there. Okay, great. I'm back. So your sandbox account, when you log in, it'll look a little something like this. You won't see these transactions here, but this is where you would make a mock eligibility request within your sandbox account, which you can do for free. You can tell we're in sandbox because the test mode is on. And then also there's this upgrade account flag down here. The next thing we're going to want to do is create an API key. You can think of an API key as a password that you can use to access your account and run transactions with Stedi using code. And so we're going to be using that because we're building an insurance verification app. We're going to be using an API key for like to do all of our authentication, authorization, that sort of stuff. You can create API keys by going to the developer settings, click generate new API key. You're only going to be able to create test keys in sandbox mode. And then we're going to name this something like eligibility test and then click create key. So once you create key, it's going to show you the key. You want to treat this key as a password. Don't show it to other people. Don't post it online, etc. It can be used to access and run transactions on your account. But if you do ever leak your API key or it gets out, you can always come here and delete it. So I'm going to generate the key. I'm going to do that off screen. I'm going to save it to a safe place, and then we're going to pick up with the tutorial. Okay, you can see I created our eligibility test key, and it's created up here. Let's go back to the tutorial and pick up there. So we created a key. The next thing we want to do is set up our project folder. So you can just copy these demands directly out of the blog, and I'm going to paste it right into our terminal here. So you can see what this did is create a new folder, or it's called directory. And then we changed the directory to that folder. So essentially what this is telling us is like, now we're in the eligibility tutorial folder. Going back to our tutorial, the next step is we want to start our coding agent. So let's get Claude going. And I'm going to dangerously skip permissions just to have things go a little bit faster. So you can see Claude is up and running. I'm going to ignore these MCP servers for now. And we're just going to paste this prompt into Claude Code. What this prompt tells us to do is to build a backend. So this is essentially building the code that's going to talk between the code that's on our machine and our Stedi account. And eventually it's going to use our API key to do that. But all it's telling it to do is create a backend that makes API requests using Stedi's real-time eligibility check API to Stedi. Paste those in. And I'm going to pause the recording real quick while it works, but it essentially will will let you know and tell you when it's done. I wanted to restart the recording to show you what it's working on. So the first thing it's doing, it's going out, and this was included in the prompt. It's going out and looking at Stedi's API documentation. So Stedi has agent-friendly API docs that the agent can consume really easily. It then went and grabbed like the API endpoint we're going to be using for eligibility checks. And now it's building the code. This uses a framework called Next.js. You don't need to be familiar with Next.js in order to use this. It's just, that's what it's using. And it's building code that makes an API request. Great. And now the next step, if we go back to our tutorial, is to add the API key that we saved earlier. So the prompt actually was instructed to open a text editor. And so this is text edit. All you're going to do is paste in the API key that you saved earlier here, replace this your key here text, and then save this file. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't want to share my API key. We want to do best practices here. Save the file, and then I'll start the recording back up. Great. So I've added my API key. I've saved the file, and now we're ready to move on to step 6, which is building the UI. So this is going to be the part where you're going to be able to actually see a front end app. So we built the backend, which actually like makes like all the API requests and gets the data that we need. Now we're going to build our front end so that our users or maybe our front end staff could actually interact with this itself. So I'm going to copy this prompt here, paste it back into Claude Code, and then it'll run very similar to it did last time. I'm going to pause the recording while it's working, just so we're not wasting time. And that'll pick it back up once Claude's done. Okay, it looks like we are wrapped up here. So what I'm going to do is move to the final step. So we built the UI. And in order to check it out, you can open localhost in your web browser. You can just click the link over in the blog. And this looks pretty close to what we have here. It looks like this is like kind of in light mode, and we have a dark mode over here. Yours may look a little bit different, but we've also loaded 3 mock requests. So we've got active coverage, and it preloads the mock data that you need to send. So you can click check eligibility, and then it's actually making an API request to Stedi using the same like API endpoint that you would be using in production. We're just using a test key, and then it sends back a mock response, and you can see the JSON for that response right here. That's basically the code that then gets formatted and used to populate this. And you can see that like we've got active coverage. There's the plan number, the group number. We've got service dates, the pair, as well as like information like deductibles, out of pocket, active coverage, sort of things. I'm also going to give you an example of an error. So we've got a mock for what an error that you get back from a payer would look like. This one indicates that the payer doesn't have the patient on file. So they don't have a record for like either this person's name, date of birth, or member ID. And they send back what's called a AAA error. And AAA error 72 typically indicates that there's something wrong in one of these 4 bits of like input. That's great. I think my favorite thing about working with coding agents is once you get started, you can actually use the agent itself to help you learn more about what we've done here today. So I would say like maybe a good first next step is to take the URL for this blog, give it to the agent and say, explain to me what we've just done and use this blog as a reference. And then you can also, once like you're kind of like more confident in what's going on here, you can move on to some next steps you can upgrade your Stedi account and then start working on moving it to production. And again, you can use the coding agent to help give you guidance here. If you want additional help, you can also reach out to us at Stedi. So thank you again for your time. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.